just had a couple of readings tonight that I listened to, and these of course are channeled messages. And I wrote some notes because it's something I really wanted to talk about. I've touched on a little bit in a prior video, but I thought maybe we should go into it a little bit deeper. The first thing is, in your journey, let's say that you are sort of waking up, or you are acknowledging the fact that you might be a light worker. And in your process of trying to get to your mission, we all need to ascend to a higher plane, and we need to leave those things behind that no longer serve us, that no longer serve a purpose in our life. And I know that I've given you examples on past videos where I've talked about how I had to give something up in shadow work or dark night of the soul. And if you guys remember, I did a video on dark night of the soul, and my dark night of the soul lasted exactly 7 days. Now, shadow work is something that's continuous. We don't ever achieve like this nirvana level without constantly working on ourselves. I mean, there's always work that can be done to get you to that ascension level. There's things that just pop up in my life, that things that I didn't realize I needed to get rid of, that maybe were blocking me, but would come up in prayer meditations. And I told you guys several times that sometimes in prayer meditations, I just start bawling like crazy because I've realized something in a prayer meditation that I needed to get rid of, and I'm able to address it right then. The one thing I love about when I do go into a prayer meditation and I start to really break down and cry, that's my sign. I know my angels surround me, and it's the perfect place for me to deal with that shadow work right then and there. It just happened when I was in the hospital a couple of days ago, and so that's the most recent event that has happened since doing any shadow work prior to that. So it happens not on a regular basis. It just happens when it needs to come up. Everything is divine timing. It's as simple as that. That you give something up that no longer suits you to help you progress in your transition to that higher ascension, so that you are clearing out your karmic cycles, that you are getting rid of the baggage that no longer suits you, and that you're moving in the direction to help others. So that being my goal, I think it's important that when we're talking about forgiving ourselves, we need to start at the beginning. So it's really, really important, and I know it may not seem important because at whatever age you are now, but to start in your childhood. Start with, like in my case, I have shared before that I was an unwanted pregnancy. I was given away to someone who could not take care of me, and then I was eventually adopted out, but it took 5 years and I was returned twice. So my abandonment issues have affected me my whole entire life. So much so that, to give you just like a big snapshot of what my mechanism was to counterbalance that deep fear of always being abandoned and unwanted and unworthy, is in every relationship I've had. And I've been in relationships more than I've been single. And they all were long-term. They all were minimum, well, the shortest was 4 years because he died, but the longest was like 9 years. So anywhere from 7 to 9 years is where I averaged per relationship. But I always left first, because I never wanted to be left. I was not going to let anyone leave me, because my fear of abandonment was that strong, that I felt unlovable and unworthy. And those all rooted when I was an infant. So one of my first things that I broke down crying about was when I realized that I had never forgiven and protected the child inside of me. So I don't want to say that the child was ruling me. I just want to give acknowledgement to the fact that the infant that had abandonment issues did not deserve what happened to him. And so I want to apologize to that infant and let them know I'm there to protect them now. And so part of that means if you resonate with being a light worker and with when you're getting a channeled message and you're going to resonate with one of the cards in the deck, I always resonate with a divine feminine energy because I'm always birthing something. You're looking at my tanks right behind me. I give birth constantly in my channel. Everything I build is basically giving life to something and is birthing something. I'm creating something, which means I'm working in my divine feminine. On top of all that, I've always been a remodeler. So being in a remodeler where I'm hands-on, I do the remodeling myself, that's also birthing into creation something. So when I say I operate more in my divine feminine, it's not a masculine or a feminine, it's the energy that I'm giving off that I'm always creating. As an artist, I'm always creating, and I've always been artistic my entire life. I've just gone through different phases of that artistry and how it's evolved. Now it's in aquascaping, and it's allowing me to birth on a continual basis, which I love because that fits my personality. So it's not that you can say, oh, this is a feminine person. No, it's energy. We embody both masculine and feminine. But where you can protect the infant, in my case, is by putting your sword up. And so by putting your sword up, I was resonating with the Queen of Swords, that my guard was up and I was in my protector mode. And then on top of that, I also resonated with the Queen of Wands. And I have shared this story before about how Mother Nature had guided me when I asked her, could I please find my wand? And she not only found me one, she found me two. And I thought that was just a magical journey. Also, so when I did my shadow work and forgave what happened as a child, as an infant, then that led me to having to go through the trauma that I had grown up with as a preteen and teenager up until graduation from high school, where I was bullied incessantly. I've shared this before that I was raised in a very small farming town of only 3,000 people. And there were only, I think it was 50, either 52, I think it was 52 people or 42 people, I can't remember, in my graduating class. And so all through school, I was bullied, and it happened every single day. There was no reprieve from it. And it made me question why I was so religious and how I could be so bullied and how I constantly was praying for the courage to commit suicide. And I don't shy away from talking about things like this. These were depths of my emotions that I could share with no one. I certainly couldn't talk to my parents about this because they had no idea what was going on with me, and they wouldn't have known what to do either. This is something that I battled on my own. My two best friends in school saw the bullying that I went under, but did nothing to stand up for me. So that is something that I had to go back and really reconcile with the teenager inside of me, that I am sorry that I was not able to stand up more for myself. I did not believe I had the courage then because I did not know why I was created so differently. I did not know I was gay until I was 19. But I was harassed and bullied because of it when I was a young teenager up until, like I say, graduation, and that's when I moved out of my town. I couldn't understand how people knew things about me that I did not know about me. That's the one thing that really shocked me. How did they know to bully me on something that I didn't even know I was until I moved away from home? And then I realized, oh, yes, I am gay. And that started a chain of events that I can just talk about briefly. But what I did is that I had to go back and apologize to that teenager and say that I wish I had protected you better. I wish I had done better by you, and that you hadn't had that stamina to go through every what would have been a dark night of the soul constantly when you would get to those depths. I'm sorry you went through that, but I know now on the other side that that made me stronger. It made me stronger to fight the battles later in life when I was an adult. And when I became a young adult, and I'm talking like around 22, I entered into a series of Bible study courses that dealt just with homosexuality. And that's where my power really came into play. That's where my spirituality really came into play. Was in the church that I joined as an adult. A church that allowed me to be channeled by the divine to give messages during prayer for other members of my congregation. And I could see this magic, this divine energy that came into my being, and it was just beautiful. I never knew what I was saying when I was praying with someone. I never remembered what they said, but someone would always come up to me afterwards and say what I said resonated with them, and that they thought the advice I gave was wonderful. So, but I never could remember a thing I did or said. But I knew then, and I didn't question, that I was being used by the divine. It was very natural to me. But I couldn't share this with anyone in my family because they would have thought I was all insane. They would have thought I was completely crazy. But being like that, growing up with those two main concepts of bullying and abandonment did affect me in my relationship. Now to where I don't back down from a fight, and I'm ready for a fight. And I don't back down to anyone who says there's anything wrong with, yes, you can be spiritual. Yes, you can be gay. I turned that knowledge into my power when I was younger, and I fought for gay rights. I stood up to criticism publicly, and I made that my shield and my armor, and was actually even able to go out publicly advocating for protection of the gay community in the city that I was living in, and was able to be a part of the very first gay pride parade in that city's history. And we were faced with the Ku Klux Klan and the Baptist Convention. And I can tell you firsthand what it feels like to have hate in your face when they want to do nothing but beat you to a pulp. But because of what I had overcome and my religious armor, I became very strong in my resolve. So much so that my religious temple became myself. That I learned then that I could activate the divine within inside me. I no longer, not knocking religion, but I no longer needed to go to a place to be religious and to experience the Lord, because the Lord was inside me, and I knew that. And that was an amazing, amazing feeling. And part of that I've wanted to share with you guys is that the very first time I saw my light. Now, I have shared on the videos before that the first time I saw it recently was in an experience in the park when I had a third eye vision. This is something completely different. I was at a church conference, and it was a Friday night healing service, and a friend of mine, Reverend Dolores Berry, decided she was going to open up that evening service for prayers, and she was going to be one of the ones praying over me. Now, I knew Dolores because I was a board member of my church, and so I would go to church functions in our district. And so I was the first person up and in her line. I shocked my friends around me that were traveling with me. They could not believe that I had jumped up. I wanted to be the first person in line. And so as I'm standing there facing Dolores, and mind you, we know each other, she looked at me and she said, "You have a question for God." And she said it like, "How dare you? You have a question for God." I mean, I knew exactly the tone she was taking. And she takes her finger and she just places it on my forehead like this. But to me, it felt like I was being bulldozed down, and I was fighting it. I could feel my legs clench. And I said, Lord, please don't let me fight this. And I said that internally. Then I woke up, and it was, they said 4 minutes later or a little bit longer. And I got my answer. My answer was I okay to be gay? And the divine not only said I was okay, but showed me that I was created the way I was supposed to be created for a reason. And so while I was on the floor, passed out, I saw with my third eye vision that I was this abandoned building that was boarded up like a warehouse. And so inside the warehouse blew out this white light and beautiful, cool, sweet smelling air that I can still smell today. And that's the first time I saw my light. That my light was that powerful. That my light blew away my perceptions that I was wrong to be gay and that people had a right to hate gays and to do destruction towards gays. No, that was all blown away in seconds. And so when I came to, I could not believe the miracle that had just happened to me. And just a few years before, I had been that person sitting in church, and when someone was what we call slain in the spirit, which is what had happened to me, I thought it was a joke. And I was sitting in church when it happened to someone up on stage. And I literally said in my mind, oh God, that's so fake. And that's when I felt Jesus pick me up and cradle me. And from that moment on, I never said anything like that again, because I got immediate answers to things that were happening in my life. So as I stand here now, stand here now, figuratively, it's because there's a massive evolution behind me. And I had such a difficult karmic cycle to deal with. Number one, this family I was born into had a karmic curse on them, I have been told. Number two, I had my own karmic cycle that I had to break, which is every single relationship I'd ever been in was the same. And I was just repeating the same behavior over and over and over and over, never choosing myself, always choosing to overgive, overlove, overcompensate every single relationship because I felt unworthy. Not just because of what you think. When I was very young, I was diagnosed with HIV. And I was given a life expectancy. I have already exceeded my life expectancy. So I never planned on a retirement. Unfortunately, I believed the doctors and that I would die by the time they said I would, because the partner I was with at the time is who I contacted it from. He first went blind and then he died within 2 years. And so I had living proof that I was gonna die. And I was totally content with that. Well, okay, I've lived. And I kept living, and I didn't die, so there must be a reason why I'm still here and I'm still talking. But in the early years of HIV, you were known as damaged goods. So that's part of my karmic cycle I had to give up. I felt less than because of my diagnosis, because people looked at you and they knew you did something bad to get it. That's not always the case. And I got mine within a very loving relationship that I just had a partner that did not disclose to me his HIV status. Not only did he didn't disclose his HIV status, he was full-blown AIDS by the time that we met. And I only had 2 years with him. So that was another component that I had to deal with, to go in and do work on making sure that I felt validated and I felt worthy. It's something I still work on. Every once in a while something still pops up. It's just like when I was in the hospital 2 days ago. Shadow work popped up right then. So I don't want you to get the misconception that you get to a point and then you're just completely done. You're not. You're still working on yourself. Things still pop up. It's not all thrown at you at once. Mine has been very manageable. Other than my dark night of the soul, which was The first night of it was horrific. I don't ever want to have to go something like that again because it was terrible. The rest of the 7 days, it was more manageable. I was still going through it, but it wasn't as traumatic as it was the very first night. So that's one thing I want to say about this. Another thing, to be able to ascend is, and the reason why you're doing the work is you want to be in alignment with your highest and your best path, and you want to be able to ascend so that you can make sure that you are on the right mission, that you're doing the work you're supposed to be doing, and you receive the blessings that are coming forward. Because the divine is not going to want you to sacrifice your life for your mission. No, there are gifts, there are things you can manifest along your journey. Like I have said specifically what I want in a spouse coming forward. And I think this is a great opportunity to talk about Robert. Now, I had asked for a lot of stuff that I want to get, as far as I was told to dream big. And so I have asked for a lot of stuff. Part of that was I wanted a kingdom spouse, meaning someone that is been handpicked by the divine for me. Someone that I don't have to compromise for, someone that will understand me and I will understand them, and understand how passionate and sexual I am. Now, I believe I am a sexual healer. I have never said that on this channel yet, but I do believe I'm a sexual healer because I am empathic. When I'm with someone sexually, I usually know what to do to sometimes heal their sexual wounds, if that makes sense to everybody. Some of you, it won't. It does to me because it's in my nature and I'm intuitive, and that's what I feel like. Now, so I've asked for a very specific type of person that would have the skill set also to help me in the goals I want to achieve in my life going forward. Well, it wasn't. Okay, so Mercury retrograde is in full effect. My camera just shut down because I had too much data on it. So I had to erase everything so I could move forward with the video. So what we're talking about is my manifesting my kingdom spouse. And shortly after I started manifesting, when I was encouraged to dream big, during a prayer meditation, my guide spoke to me. I wasn't dreaming big enough. And I questioned them. I did not know what they meant. I questioned them during this prayer meditation. And that's when they said, dream bigger. So I did. I opened up the Anthony floodgates of, okay, well, I got a third eye vision of a dream that was locked away somewhere. It surfaced. And I saw the image and I started going right with it. And once I started going with it, I didn't shut up. Part of that was kingdom spouse. Now, kingdom spouse, like I said, is because it's been handpicked for you by the divine. I also know that I have a past life soulmate that was coming forward. So I naturally assumed that my kingdom spouse would also be my past life soulmate. Possibly also a twin flame, but I'm not sure about that. That's not been confirmed multiple times. And when I'm talking about multiple times, I'm talking about when I used to listen to a lot of different channelers, they would all have the same information verbatim almost always. They would always say within the first few words something that resonated, that I knew I was on the right track. Well, shortly after getting used to manifesting, these new dreams and what I was looking for, I started having third eye visions of this individual. I saw myself in their home and I was the host. So I was in a home that was not mine, but I was the host. I was coming through a small gathering of people and I was handing out, I think, food items. And I was part of a conversation that was very light and fun and flirty. And I think they were questioning me about my relationship with Robert. That's how I know him. Well, I'm going through and I'm handing my last thing out and I'm looking forward into the living area, and then there's a club chair on my right and I slide into the chair. There's already someone sitting in it. Well, it's Robert. And in my third eye vision, I kiss him on the cheek before I see his face. So he's looking forward, I'm coming in on the side. And when I kiss him on his neck and I'm hugging him and I'm saying something like, this is the one, or this is it, or something like that to the person behind me, he turns and smiles and kisses me on the lips. Now, in this kiss, I saw everything. I saw our connection, our energy. It was amazing. It blew me away. And I had subsequent third eye visions with him. Some bordering on sexual. I felt our sexual energy. One of them was where our heart chakras were open to each other. We were facing each other. And Raphael was guiding this to where our heart chakras really expanded and open to each other. And it was just absolutely the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. So I was dead set on this. Robert is coming forward. And how I knew his name was Robert is at one time someone whispered in my ear as I was falling asleep the name Robert. I bolted up out of bed and I'm like, that's his name? His name is Robert. Okay, his name is Robert. Then I was encouraged, okay, you can't just sit and wait for someone to show up at your door. You have to do something proactive. So put yourself out there. So I did. I created a dating profile and I put myself out there. Now, I learned of Robert on June the 20th of this current year. On June 22nd, Robert popped up in my grid of people that had seen me online and viewed my profile. Now, my profile online was nothing but spirituality. It had my aquascaping channel in it, information in it, so they could pull me up online. It had everything that I was doing spirit-wise was in there. So it was primarily, I literally said, I'm looking for an emperor because I knew an emperor was coming forward. I put it all in there in great detail. The person who showed up on my grid was the same man in my third eye visions, down to the hat he was wearing the first time I saw him. And I was in shock. This person was literally 2 miles from me. So now I waited until almost 3 months before I made contact. Now I take that back. I initially made contact with him the day I saw him pull my profile. And I replied, but I sent him a message saying that I enjoyed his profile. And I forgot what else I said, but it's very, very short. Just a short little greeting, hoping it would open up a dialogue, which it did not. And that kind of like confused me. And I started asking questions about, okay, and I was talking to Metatron a lot because he's the one who sent me all these third eye visions. And I'm like, okay, he's never instigated any communication with me. We are 2 miles apart from each other. This is the person that was in my third eye vision. This is the same person that's on this profile. What's the deal? And that went on and on. I never got an answer. Never got an answer back. Well, so almost 3 months go by and I made contact with him. I was on a trip and I thought, I'm just going to see what he says. And so all I sent him a message was, may I ask you a question? His one word reply, I read his energy. His reply was, what? And I thought, oh, this can't be Robert. This is not the energy of the person I'm supposed to be with. This is not him. Something has gone wrong because this is not him. So I went ahead and asked him my question, did his name contain the letter R? And he just replied back, no. And again, I read his energy. I'm like, oh, then did I have some choice words to say in my prayer meditations. I knew something was wrong. I knew something had changed. I felt a connection to Robert many, many times as far as him connecting with me and me connecting with him on a level where I felt his presence completely once in the bed next to me when I was alone in my bed. I could feel his energy. I could see his smile. He leaned over and put his arm around me and I thought, okay, what the heck is going on? Why has this changed so drastically? And I never got an answer of course, when I wanted an answer, I never got an answer. So guess what? I gave up on it. For some reason, I completely started focusing on putting together this channel and started working on this channel and started amping up my prayer meditations. And I started saying, look, if this guy doesn't come forward, that's no big deal. I'll be fine by myself. I don't need someone in my life that is going to cause any type of turmoil or anything like this. I don't want that again. I've had that for decades. That is the least thing I want. But in the back of my mind, there's another part of readings that I had been ignoring. A lot of times I would get in a reading, they would talk about someone going forward and they would talk about an age gap. I assumed I was the age gap. I assumed I was going to be the older. And what kind of like made me really upset is that I was kind of beating myself up for the fact that I didn't wake up fast enough and join my mission, because I've gotten to an age where I was not going to get to enjoy long-term relationship with someone, because I was going to be much older than they are probably, and that I would die first. I was okay with that, but I'm not going to say I wasn't upset. I was upset. I was upset at myself because it took me as long as it did to wake up. And I thought, how is this in divine balance? How is this balancing out the universe if I have to wait until I'm at my age now to get the spouse I was supposed to have all this time? And I was led to believe I was supposed to marry the gentleman that I did marry. I've wasted 8 years of my life for a sign I had then, and that went awry. Well, okay, through shadow work, I was supposed to go through all that. I mean, my partner, my husband, could have shown up for his mission, but he chose not to. He chose to stay in the ego, and I didn't, but it was draining me at the same time. So until I left that relationship, I was stuck. So I was stuck for 6 years. So the last 2 years, we've been separated by distance, and that's what's helped me wake up, is that I finally showed courage to love myself. That's one of the points I want to make. You have to choose yourself and love yourself and forgive yourself to be able to proceed forward. Now, I have totally given up hope that it's going to be this Robert person, because I read his energy and I knew he is not for me. In the readings, though, that have been going back until May of this year, there's always been a second component. It could be someone older that comes forward. And I had a reading tonight. That's what we're going to focus on right now. I started crying in the reading because this person that's going to come forward is going to regret that we weren't born of the same time. And it's going to be the magical connection that I've told it will be. I've been given no third eye visions about this. I know something has changed on my timeline. I don't know why, and I won't find out why, because everything is in divine timing. I know that before, when we were talking about Robert had to clear something in his life to make way for me. So we all have free will. So he apparently, what I'm guessing, is chose his free will over going in the direction of us being together. So I don't know if the person coming forward is supposed to be my past life soulmate, but I was told tonight in the reading that our connection is going to be so intense that we are going to want to come together again in another lifetime, so that we can live out our lives at the same age. That is something that's been foretold. So that's something that kind of gives me a little comfort, because I was bawling like crazy when I figured out that I was going to be the one that was not going to die first, that I was going to be left without this great love of my life, and it didn't indicate how long we had together. So it kind of has shown me that in one of my visions, and I've talked about this on another video, where everyone's timeline is laid out and it's all layers of this. It's this blue mist, like an electrical mist, like something out of a 3D. and then the timelines are illuminated white, and they're multiple layers, like a cake, like layer after layer after layer, but they're infinitely tiny little layers. And then when someone is on your timeline and then something doesn't take place, then your timeline shifts. I believe that's what's happened. I believe I had a timeline shift. That's the best way my 3D brain can think about this. And now when I had to put my camera down, I forgot my notes. So that's what I wanted. I wanted to bring that up because some of you may be into confusion about some of the things you're told. Just know that everything is fluid, everything is energy, we all have free will. Yes, you could be a light worker and you could decide to stay in the ego, or you can do the work and try to ascend and pierce the veil and see what's going on behind the scenes. I can tell you from my own personal experience, I've given thanks to the divine almost every time I go into prayer meditation, that I'm so much happier now that I have woken up, that I see things from a different perspective now, that I understand why aquascaping was thrust into the forefront for me, because it literally saved me from my despair of my marriage that failed so horribly. And for those of you who need to understand this, we were only given gay rights to marry just years ago. I waited my whole life to be able to be married, and then look what I got. I got someone that didn't show up, someone that was breadcrumbed, and someone that love bombed, and then we literally have only lived together 3 little periods of time because we cannot make it work, because he is too much in his ego and he does not disclose any communication towards me whatsoever other than what happens at work, and that's it. There's no emotion, there's no affection. There's affection like what you would hug someone that's a distant cousin because you're required to. That's what it felt like. He made me feel as if I was an ogre to be avoided, and really all he wanted was to be attached to my light and to my finances. And so I was doing myself a horrible disservice by staying with him. I mean, I just was not putting myself forward, but I'm a Cancer, and Cancers love hard. They don't want to give up. I did not want to give up. I had even thought about him transferring to where I am now so that we could give it another go. Thank God someone woke me up so I realized what was happening, or I'd be still in that situation right now. And I'm telling you, it was debilitating. Debilitating. That's the easiest way to say it. So I want to leave you with this. So we talked about the need to ascend, but the need to release things, because it will allow you the freedom to be your better self. So everything you release has a purpose for you releasing it, and it brings you closer to the divine and hopefully closer to your mission and enlightenment. So if I do nothing more than just my light challenges you to wake up, or my words cause you to give you question to what's going on in your life, then my work is done. Then my videos have been worthwhile. So if, like always I say in my videos, if you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in a comment. If you have anything you want to discuss or have a question about, let me know. I am here for you. My only reason to be here is to try to reach other light workers and to activate you and to help you elevate. And that's why I'm doing my video diary here, so that you can experience just what I'm experiencing as it happens. And I hope this does help, and I hope the video resonates with you. So until you either see me in the skies as a flight attendant or on the next video update, I'm wishing you nothing but light and love, and you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.